All right, so we're in the process of going live. So if anybody wants to hesitate before they say something personal, and I believe we're live. I think we're good. Last episode of the Union of the Unwanted for 2025. It's been a very exciting and eventful year. But before we get into the show with this amazing panel, this beautiful group of people we have here today, that tan, good-looking guy is Scott. Damn, Scott, you look tan. You look good, dude. And I hope you're on Tinder, man. Girls are gonna be looking for you. And so 2025 year-end review. Sorry, Scott, that was a curveball if I've ever seen one. So year-end review. I'm in a good mood because I'm optimistic. I'm a little optimistic, but we're going to talk about if anybody else in the panel is optimistic about the future. But you can find this show on YouTube. Our last episode did get a strike. Thanks to probably Zoe. So thank you, Zoe, for joining us again to make sure we get a second strike tonight before the end of the year.
I
And
will help.
yeah, and Miriam's here, so there's a very good chance. But that's why you need to subscribe to us on Rumble because that is a safer place to find our videos. And also make sure you subscribe to our RSS feed on Podcast Addict, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to the union of the unwanted.com. I think that's about it for now. And let's get right into it, guys. Does anybody want to kind of like share their thoughts on how they think the year started, how it ended, their predictions of the future, and anything like that? Any major stories they think are going to overlap into the next year? Anything like that? Anybody want to throw their hat in? Oh, Monica, of course, Monica. Monica always has
I have
some
lists. I have a lot
very
of
interesting
lists.
list. So let's go. Let's jump right into it. What do you think, Monica? How do you feel?
Uh, I'm not going to rattle off my entire list. We'll just intersperse as the topics arise. But the biggest thing that I think was a shock and disappointment to a lot of people was, what I made a hashtag another peace president. Just we did not get Ukraine peace day one. We're not getting any progress in a just resolution in Gaza. They handed over Syria to jihadists. Now we're pirates killing people in the Caribbean Sea, seizing tankers. I think we're probably going to invade or attack in some way or another Venezuela. It might drag in Cuba. We're giving $11 billion of weapons to Taiwan. Like I just see hot war everywhere. That's it.
That's very optimistic of you. Yeah.
Sorry. Let's like go into this with our eyes open. So when that guy says, "Oh, we're just gonna kill people and then they're gonna be dead," we can say, "Wait a second,
Well,
that's wrong."
I agree with you, Monica, but we started out on a pretty positive note with Doge and some of the disclosures at the beginning here, the executive orders. You thought, oh, maybe Trump's going to do something. I don't know. It quickly spiraled. Now we've gone all the way to the opposite extreme. He said this guy's as far from a peace president. He may be the biggest interventionist we've ever had because he's bragging about it, blowing up boats, and not showing any evidence that they were narco terrorists, whatever the hell narco terrorists are. But
Right.
I can't be optimistic about anything. But I think the only thing I'm optimistic about is the fact that the alt media, especially, is driving the anti-Zionist agenda finally, and we're finally talking about this. We never talked about that before, so I think inadvertently, the Charlie Kirk thing, October 7th, obviously, and then the Kirk thing, and the Epstein list, kind of all together, really opened people's eyes, I think, to how much power Zionism has, and the overreaction and the part of the Ben Shapiro's and Mark Levin's, and now Alex Jones. Have you seen Alex Jones recently? He's going after Candace Owens and talking to them. So these are radical people, but he's going after them just for talking about it and all, and warning about the dangers of Islam. So if one good thing I think is people are seeing, they're not buying that stuff anymore. More and more people, whether they're doing it. People does, I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic about something. That's about the only thing I can be optimistic about.
I would say the Zionist agenda is, I mean, that was also rolled out by design because now you can
Yeah.
have bills to say to anyone that they're a Semite, an anti-Semite, just for questioning. It's part of the
transhumanist, totalitarian, techno-fascist agenda.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one positive note. It is funny because Don hit on a very important and interesting point, how different the year started compared to the way it ended. Like, I mean, I think a lot of us, even if you weren't a fan of Trump or whatever, you kind of felt like something good, like something good was going to come out of this presidency that we could get behind. You had Robert Kennedy Jr. involved. You had, just all these things that were proposed.
Altogether,
Doge,
yeah.
and then next thing it's like Mossad got involved and did the full 360. And
It,
go ahead, somebody
it
was.
only took 2 days for that bubble to get burst for me, because day 2, Larry Ellison is announcing Stargate and how the information that I've been telling everyone is being used, collected against you. That was they were actually coming out and saying, the information we've been collecting, we're actually putting that into the AI, and we're going to use that to create vaccines to cure your cancer. So it only took 2 days for that bubble to burst. And Monica, I just wanted to add a comedic interlude, because when I hear you describe all of that, do you remember the movie Team America from
Fuck
early
yeah.
2000s? I swear when you say that, all I can think of is Trump has turned that movie from a comedy
Yes.
into a documentary.
Yeah.
Just like the movie Idiocracy, started out as a movie and it became a documentary. That movie is starting to become more and more reality as I
Imagine
go along.
the psych studies, the decades and decades of psych studies to evaluate how a cult of personality needs to be
Right,
molded in order to achieve, really, it's like that crowds and power thing. People actually supporting things that are against their own morals.
right.
It's
Yeah,
very, I'm not going to name names, but there are
Well,
people in history who have managed that quite effectively.
Trump
that's
is the man that you love to hate. I mean, he's a polarizing figure that they've molded, and I think many of us knew that it's a dialectic and it was going to swing. That's why I moved to West Palm Beach, right across the pond from Mar-a-Lago, because I figured they're not going to shit in his backyard.
yeah. I just want to say that it's like a kayfabe bit that he's been doing the entire time in a desperate ploy in order to get people emotionally invested, so that they absolutely refuse to acknowledge that the bubble was burst before it even reached election day, or more appropriately, selection day. And they groomed these people for a very long time. And I used to have hope in RFK originally, because I remember I appreciated the sincerity that he brought to it, and that he actually was doing some really good work and stuff like that. But then I eventually realized that was just a mid bracket of hope that needed to be allotted by an establishment insider who was himself, flying on Lolita Express 3 times. Would anyone trust someone who flew on Lolita Express 3 times as a babysitter? Probably not. Would you trust them with what they inject into your kid? I should hope not. But at a certain point, those bubbles really have to burst for us to be able to move past getting caught by the next one.
Well said.
And of course, he blamed his ex-wife that he convinced to kill herself for that
Yeah.
Lolita Express trip, right?
Well, also, come on, the man is vaccine injured. That's why he sounds like that. He went to do a surgery.
No, it's a hereditary disease.
He told me that personally.
Rose Kennedy had the same thing. You ever heard her talk? She talked exactly like that. So is one of his sisters. I forget what it's called, but it's
He literally told me personally. I've profiled him. It's a vaccine injury. And Mark Grenon of that got imprisoned for MMS, also his voice sounds like that. It was a vaccine injury. I'm not kidding.
well, I don't know. He's
Literally
telling
told
different things
Well,
at different times, I guess.
yeah,
I've heard RFK give interviews on that as well, that it was a vaccine injury. And I've also heard people in my own personal life tell me after they've had the COVID-19 vaccine that they had problems speaking, or they had problems with their voice, like vocal
Yeah.
tics and things like that.
Yeah. The point is to have seen at this point, if you're going to get that entrenched in politics, that there comes with a cost, alas. And vaccine injuries is also, it's a market. So if you have a law firm that's protecting people, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we're living in a capitalist society. And I think 2026 is going to be not an awakening, but a sorting. And that's what I was saying before we started filming, that there's people that are in their hearts that actually prize their soul. And I know that may sound woo-woo, but the Rona was a test. It was a beta test for the digital system that's coming down the pipeline. And now we're able to listen to Sabrina Wallace because this is quickly coming forth where we're seeing the artificial being replaced with the organic.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the Israel thing is interesting because for the longest time it was super taboo to even question it and ask any questions. And that's one thing I do enjoy about Tucker and Candace is that even if like everybody turns on them, their own, their own fan base, whatever, like they seem to at least say what they're thinking, even if it's super unpopular. And they get a lot of backlash, like I said, even from like, their typical fans or general fans. And I think we've all kind of been there. We're like, hey, we're not afraid to like say the thing before it becomes okay to say it. And anybody who kind of has the courage to say that, even if they're wrong, even if I disagree with them on a lot of stuff, I kind of I kind of respect them at least for that, for having that courage.
But
And
could that be the setup for the stuff that Trump's having the law firms write free in like the anti-Semitism stuff? Like I think that
well,
this casualness about discourse is probably a setup.
Yeah.
I don't
Is
know.
it really casual, Monica?
Yeah,
I think people are just saying things, not very thoughtfully about what they really mean,
Well, they,
generalizing, stereotyping rather than identifying real provable facts and issues because you get sloppy. I mean, it's hard to discipline yourself and not talk in generalizations, but I think that's the trap is to just, let those lines blur and then they can come in
But
and say, you say these things.
are you talking about the Candace Owens and Tuckers or talking about?
I never ever plug into any of those people. So don't ask me about Nick Fuentes and
I'm sorry,
Candace.
this
Oh, and
everyone.
Tucker. Just I can't. But I'm just what I was reading was about how Trump had beef with all these law firms, and he said, "I'm going to mess with you." But you can make friends with me if you stop doing the kind of pro bono work you were doing before
Wow.
and shift it all to free of charge drafting legislation, this anti-Semitism legislation. And like the Democrats do it different, where Apollo or whatever, the George Soros Tides Foundation and stuff, they draft all this stuff, show up and say, oh, here's a 500-page bill, vote on it. And that's that way. But the Republicans try not to make it look like that. So that's what I think he was doing with that. And I even think the thing with the universities was, we want you to shut down these protests and they want to. They want to do it. And he's like, we're going to cut off your funding, gives them an excuse to do it. But I think all of this stuff is going to come to some real serious censorship.
I think
But they,
I
but
think
they
you're hitting
passed,
something there,
Yeah.
Monica. I think very huge. And by the way, guys, thanks for letting me in tonight. The Trump is playing strangely to a form of his base who are willing to sit back and say, no matter what he does, this is what we voted for. And so when he plays hardball with, apparent hardball with his base or with these law firms and the universities, it appeals to that blind loyalist base, which is my big black pill coming out of 2025 is I still have people that are like, no matter what he does, they can't see anything wrong with it.
Don't you remember TC that quote of Trump saying on Fifth Avenue, I could go and shoot someone and they'll still
Right.
support it. So that
Yeah.
we have a prophecy fulfilled.
Yeah. Oh,
but I
no,
think he's,
exactly. I mean, I just had a hater on my show 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago now, who she uses every single left wing, progressive Gramscian Marxist trope from a right wing perspective because of how blind she is to that very thing. And so when we talk about, like, what are your takeaways from 2025? Excuse the terminology, we're fucked. we're, we're because both sides are just blind, and you've got voices like all the voices here who are over here going, "Hey, pay attention to this," and they're like, "Oh no, we're going to silence you because you're anti-Semites, or we're going to silence you because you're
But I was
against
trying,
the
what I was trying to make
Republic."
a point about the anti-Semitism. They passed the anti-Semitism awareness, whatever the hell it was, a year or maybe 2 years ago. It passed overwhelmingly. I've been trying to find. They do this stuff, and it confused. There is no updates on it. Trump would have definitely signed it. It passed overwhelmingly in both houses. There's no record of
It
it
got it
beyond
passed in
the
Don,
fact
you're
both.
muffled.
Yeah, Don, there's something
Yeah,
wrong with your
something's wrong with your
audio.
mic, man.
I didn't
that.
think I didn't
What's that?
think it passed both. I thought that was rejected. That was the thing that was written by Kamala Harris, right? Her husband.
We passed overwhelmingly in both
Okay.
houses, and we're just was
Oh,
waiting for Trump to sign it, and that's probably been 2 years ago, at least 1 year. No updates on it. So what happened to it? And they're still talking about that kind of legislation, and they act like they didn't already vote on it.
Well, I
It's,
mean, Israel's always had a lot of, I mean, I remember back in the day, Abby Martin, right, getting banned from a university because she was, outspoken against what was going on in Gaza, and they banned her. And she was, she ended up, I don't know if she went to court or something. There was like a giant lawsuit or something like that. And she was like, just she thought it was absurd, which it is, that like, hey, I can't talk about a foreign nation. I can't talk, in America, I can't talk poorly. Like nobody's gonna ban me for talking about Russia or China in a poor light, but like, God forbid you talk about Israel and, shit hits a fan. And I think everything that's happened really shows that the American flag really is only not red, it's just white and blue, and it doesn't have 50 stars. It only has one giant star of David in the middle, and really like they control our politics, and I think they have what's been exposed. I think is the influence that they have is much stronger than I think even many of us probably thought. And I mean, I think a lot of what happens, you can always kind of point the finger at like, okay, is that like whose interest is that in? And is there because even like Trump, it makes very little sense to me the 360 he took if it wasn't because they have him by the balls, and BB every time he's in town, like Trump's always the guy who wants to be the alpha male in the room. He wants to be the guy who, doesn't get bossed around and is the alpha male, and he wants to make sure everybody in the room knows that. But BB's the one guy that like he doesn't act like that around, and really no politician acts like that around, and just how much we've pampered to their wants and needs over and over again, and how much we protect them all the time. Like there's no way this isn't just another part of the Epstein puzzle, right? Just like everybody's blackmailed, everybody's controlled, everybody, is in on it. And I really just when I had Craig Solomon Sawyer on one time, he was talking about like child trafficking and whatnot, and he was talking about how like when you see a politician or a person like completely 360, and this was like years ago when I had him on before Trump got in office, he was talking about, he's like, a lot of times you can assume like, hey, they might have something on them, right? And I don't think that's much different than what we're seeing now. The mob's done it forever, right? They just blackmail somebody, get you in, at a party doing something. A lot of people believe the Playboy Mansion was a part of that, was a giant CIA operation just to have cameras everywhere and just have shit on everyone. When you look at P. Diddy, when you look at, we were joking around before we went live, like, yeah, like they have cameras everywhere all the time, so they always have something on you, and it might not even be like you might have not even done something on purpose. I mean, how many of these Puff Daddy stories you're hearing about people waking up not knowing what happened, right? And I saw one interview with a person who said like, I don't even want to know what happened, but because I know it was bad, and like I like it was their way of, I guess, dealing with the trauma and being in a bit of denial of what potentially could have happened, but. I just, to me, it's like, why do we think it stops at these politicians? Why do we think that?
Right. I think
You know,
it's more common than you think, what you just said. I mean, I was just talking the other day about Ambien and the fact that people have killed people, they eat shit, they go F people, they have no recollection. And then the go-to of like, I kind of don't even want to know. And so how many people are really, that's why it feeds into, I think, a more spiritual, like how embodied are you? And is this about compromise in all different levels, how, people are making compromises, and this is the way it works, that they have the blackmail, and it's like all the sides need to be captured. And then I mean,
And
that's why.
they are. And they are. They're all captured. Hollywood's captured. The
Yeah.
music industry's captured. Politics are captured. Everything is captured. When we say
Yes.
on this show that everything's fake and gay, we literally mean everything's fake and gay. And I know that
Yeah.
one time, I forget who debated, who got like offended and like, no, I don't know what you
Billy
mean.
Ray Valentine was not
Oh,
having it that
Oh
night.
yeah, I had it
he was
out
not,
with.
he was not having fake and gay. But like in regards to like, yeah, the world, and Alex Jones has said it, and I know it sounded over the top when he said, but the world is run by pedophiles. Like it's the whole world it always leads to that. Everything from like the Beast of Belgium to the Casapia scandal in Portugal to I mean there's to Jamie Seville to Dennis Haster to the Penn State cover up to I mean Franklin scandal. I mean just endless and endless and endless amounts of and it's like okay, and these are always like who's involved? There's always like evidence of like the people at the highest levels of everything, in the fashion industry, and I forget who the guy was in the fashion, the famous Canadian fashion guy who was involved with a big scandal too. But like, it just seems like wherever you go to look, there's some, child trafficking, pedophilia, thing going on. And like Miriam said, it is kind of spiritual, or it definitely is spiritual, because the only way you explain it is good versus evil, because there's nothing more evil than doing what potentially we think they're doing and harming innocent little children. And it's now what's motivating that, if it's satanic rituals, if it's people who are exposed to every desire they wanted, and then that's the one line that they're it's like a rich person stealing, right? They're doing it just for the rush. If it's that, like I don't
So
know.
sorry, I
Go
want to
ahead.
add to that. So if it's like the way I'm seeing it now, because if we look at duality and transcending between good and evil, that it's like we're all being tested. And it's like I look at patterns and I see in the, you could say, woo-woo world now, because I'm not really plugged into politics. I'm kind of resigned as a journalist, that there's a revival of Gnosticism and astrology and reincarnation, and that if people can have memory to the fact that they've done this before, I mean, I do, that what is this really all about? You get into this existential trap of thinking. And of course, it's a dialectic. They want us to be distracted between good and evil, but it's about our own. What are you going to do? How are you compromising yourself? Did you take this jib jab and you're just doing your job and ushering in a techno fascist? Like, and then it's beyond that, where now I think people are completely clued out that wouldn't even have those moral discussions with their own fucking selves. So I think that's the bigger thing of like, there's no real award for being good these days, right? You're in the system. I had to do it for my job. I had to do it for whatever excuses we give ourselves, because ultimately we're responsible for our actions. So I think, 2026, not to go off on a spiritual tangent, but I think that's people who are clued in. It's like, well, what have I done with my life? And where am I making alliances, right? Winston in 1984 is in the corner trying to write in his journal. He is having a mundane moment, having a cappuccino. And when I reread that book, I was like, really, Winston? You did all of this so you can have a effing cappuccino? And now I am Winston, like just wanting, like, please leave me alone. I want some peace. Why are you laughing, Tease?
Oh no, I just appreciate your commentary and agree on a lot of the points. I guess I want to throw this out insofar as the optics with which people initially approach things and the imprint that is permanently left on how we view things moving forward. And this is I don't know what the correct terminology other than torture done to an animal, but they grew kittens for the first couple weeks of their development inside of a box with only vertical lines. And then once they came out of that, they weren't able to see horizontal lines. They could not do it. So the initial optics with which you approach an event, if you take it at face value, if you see it this way, if you're emotionally invested, then, oh, guess what? That imprint is going to be on you so much that you literally have to bump into the horizontal lines enough to, through pain, understand that they're there. And that is the habitual entrainment of a species, much akin to the learned helplessness and the abuse cycles that go into the inversion principle of a satanic network, which is really just a front for the nameless religion and the old religion, which is rooted in pedophilia. And that kind of brings us back to one, insofar as this is orchestrated as a spiritual war.
That's huge. What is that experiment called?
Oh, I don't remember the name of the experiment, but it's an old one. They like to brutalize and subjugate animals to the most horrific things as a template for what they do to us through the screens that we stare at all day.
Right. It's also like the elephants that are, if
Yeah.
there's was a documentary, How I Became an Elephant, where the elephant's ankle is locked up, and then after years of captivity, when the chains are undone, it's like a Stockholm syndrome
Yeah.
kind of
Learn
thing.
helplessness. Yeah, that's it.
Now,
I was just going to add, I feel like the society has become so inverted because of all of the captured agencies and because of everything that we're told through all of these agencies, media and news, and even our friends and family anymore. We've been taught to see the world through good and evil, and that, you know, the government, the laws, different regulatory agencies are the ones that issue the truth, are the ones that, you know, have our best interests at heart, and their laws are for our safety, for our protection. And that has just been outed in the public as a complete lie. So that really is the key here. And I think people are finally grasping that concept. And now we might be able, after 2025, to move into the next phase, which is actually challenging that inner voice that tells us what's right and what's wrong. Because when the captured agencies are the ones making the laws, then you become a criminal by breaking those rules. And so a lot of people, they don't want to do that because they think they're good law-abiding citizens. But when you realize that it's actually a cartel that's making these laws for your detriment, not for your benefit, then people are starting to realize that their power is by saying no and pushing back. And I just wanted to add one more thing before I turn over the mic. Over the last year, my review has been censorship, hardcore censorship. From September 2024, when I launched my book, the very next day, debanked, censored. I was in a movie, also censored. People still haven't heard of it a year later. And here we are coming into 2026. And the censorship, it's been kind of an up and down, but I'm about to publish an article about how it's ramping right back up. And where it's coming at, and Miriam mentioned this earlier, that COVID was kind of a test for digital ID. And I'm seeing that come to fruition now, because at the beginning I was getting debanked and I could still open accounts without scanning my face. Just this week, I go to open an Amazon account to sell on Amazon, and now you have to scan your face. I tried to fix some stuff with my Stripe account, and you have to scan your face. Substack is now having age checks, and people have to scan their face in Australia in order to use that app. And I am starting to see a lot of pushback over this digital ID. In 2025, I saw Catherine Austin Fitts make a prediction that 2025 would be the year of CBDC. And I think she's been right in that they are building that infrastructure. But I saw someone else say this, and I think it's true, that they have to have the digital ID in place first before they can bring about the CBDC. So my prediction is 2026 is going to be, we are going to come face to face with those walls closing in front of us surrounding digital ID. And it's not going to be all at once. It's going to be a one by one sort of a thing. It's going to be the boiling frog situation.
Well, I think you're a beta user. I joke that I'm the poster child for the social credit system. You'd see the face of Miriam. So if you're see the patterns, and it's absolutely right. Like I had one credit card just decide to cancel. I can't even apply because of inactivity. The banks, if someone tries to buy my George Floyd book, go do Instagram Live. It's like personal. That's what I was saying a year ago. They tailor their torture to the person. It's your own room 101. It's going to be very difficult to tell other people. But this is the direction that we're going to. This is not fucking conspiracy. This is happening. It's happening. Some of us are ahead because we're divergents. We're alienated because we're speaking 100% truth and we're not compromised. So maybe people will not have it that bad because you already have everything in place. You have your PayPal, whatever. But if you're going to go now to open something new, it's they're up your ass. and they're priming you, even getting food stamps after they shut them down. The questions, they want to know what's in your panties. They want to know everything. This is Big Daddy.
A few things happened this year that support that. One is Real ID, which was, people did resist that for a long time. That was implemented in May. And just as like an act of protest, I went and got my license renewed in April. And they're like, why are you here? It's not even expiring. I'm like, I just want to do it. But so I don't know. That's not as bad as the European digital ID. They already have that digital ID, came down this year. And just to Miriam's point, I was trying to get something for one of my kids, and I don't know. I was not doing it on the level. They used the phone. So I was trying to get my son a bank account because I wanted to get him something off the grid. And in order to get like this kind of ID, you had to have a bank account. And they wouldn't open the bank account without calling him at his number, and that phone had to be registered in the same name as I was trying to get the other stuff done. It's a long story that I'm going to plead the fifth on, but I'm just telling you, you can't do anything without a bank account and a phone. So they don't even really, yeah, I mean, that's the beginning of the ID. And the first time I ever had to take a picture of my ID with my face was to buy Bitcoin, like whatever it was, Coinbase or something.
If I may, just to share that, I don't know if you heard this, maybe I mentioned it last time, but I got like a loan offer. This was maybe 8 months ago, maybe more. And it said $10,000 and it had the Better Business Bureau insignia and a special code. I don't, we're all getting these offers. I get them. So, but I decided to call.
Could you send one of these offers my way? I could use 10,000.
Well, I called and I gave him the code. And then he said, he paused and he goes, "You're a conspiracy theorist." And I'm like just picturing his fucking screen with a big band on my face saying conspiracy. I'm like, where is this guy getting this data? Who is this guy? Right? Then call back. The number doesn't work. So what the F is that? Right? What all of these databases are going to merge.
Let me share a story about so I have a buddy of mine who I was just with this weekend. He recently retired. He was a detective his whole life, and we were talking about the retired life or whatever, and how he is looking to stay busy. And he was applying for some jobs or whatever, and one of the jobs he applied to, he did an interview with, right, and they're like, hey, you're actually going to talk to a artificial intelligence. You're going to be interviewed by AI. So he gets this 30-minute interview by AI, and then they tell him he doesn't get the job, and then he finds out that what they're doing is there is no job. They literally just wanted him to talk to the AI, and they were just using him as a part of this, feeding information to the AI and whatnot. And then he's like, since he's done that, he's been getting more and more offers for interviews by these fake companies, these front companies, and they're asking like some of the questions were about his job, about being a police officer and being a detective and whatnot. And he's like, there was definitely moments where you knew that, like, okay, there's some flaws in this machine's thinking and responses, but he's like, the nuances it was picking up on, like it was asking questions that it picked up on, just information throughout the discussion. It would pick up on little nuances, the same way that, like, what are they called? Those people who are illusionists or right, or whatever they are, where they can
Cold reading.
What is it?
Cold readers.
No, like they're kind of like magicians, like
yeah, it's cold
what
reading. They go into a room and they just pick up on cues by asking really generic questions, and then they feed they get the answers that feed them, and then they go, oh, I'm sensing that there's a male spirit on this side. Has anybody recently had a dead uncle or a dad? I'm feeling a dad spirit over here. And it's AI does the exact same thing as cold readers do.
Oh, absolutely. And that was kind of the point I was getting to, was the idea that, like, if once they figure out how to trick us, we're easily tricked. I mean, humans can do it, right? And so if artificial intelligence is way superior than any human in regards to intelligence, why wouldn't it also be able to do the same thing without us even knowing it's happening. There was that magician, like Magic for, I don't know, whatever, for like I don't know, he has like all these little Netflix shows. It's like Magic for adults, Magic for kids, whatever. But one of the episodes on one of the series that he had, he would use these techniques. He had all these influencers come on episode, and he told them to take pictures anywhere they wanted, right? In this room, he had all these setups where where you could take pictures and whatnot. And then before he did it, they didn't know, but he took pictures of all the spots exactly the way they were going to take them. And then they're like, how, like afterwards they were comparing. He's like, how did you know I was going to take a picture there? He knew which influencer was going to take. And then he explains like, hey, I brought up this and I brought up that, which sparked this thought. I was basically planting the seed of like this idea and planting the seed of like this and that. And they didn't know. And so that's the thing we're concerned about. And this is where I'm going to get Alex in this conversation, because nobody has his finger to the pulse of AI closer than Alex. And Alex and I just had an amazing conversation about artificial intelligence. And for the people who are listening, I mean, we're talking about the things that are a little scary about AI. What's your thoughts on artificial intelligence? Should we be afraid? Should we not be afraid? I mean, you have friends who are, I mean, you're involved in the community. You have friends in the community. You're involved in the whole industry and whatnot. Like, what's your thoughts on it for the listeners and for the panel?
AI is definitely going to save us, Ricky. No, I mean that kiddingly, but kind of seriously. I mean, I think it's a game changer, and whether you believe that or not, it's a done deal. I mean, I think most people are not aware of just how fast it's advancing, even though you kind of have an idea how fast it's advancing when you really talk to the people who are really on the inside and look what they're saying and look what where the labs are at versus what the public facing technology is at. It's pretty.
I mean, it's
amazing.
already reading your mind and creating personalized YouTube feeds or whatever else. I mean, a woman told me that Starlink was doing spot experiments on mind reading. I'm not quite sure the technology on what they're picking up on, the brain chips. Then I found out last week also a customer of mine's husband was killed way back, I mean, in the late 80s for taking brain chips out of people.
Well, it really depends on your kind of worldview. I mean, if you have an atheistic worldview and you think there is no such thing as spirituality, there is no such thing as good and bad, and it's a social construct and that there is nothing more than that, then I think we are fucked. But if you think there is some kind of greater and larger ultimate truth, then I think there's a way to view this thing. And it's the conclusion that I come to just evidentially, is that AI's in a position to kind of help facilitate that greater truth. If it's just, I'll end it there. It's in a position to facilitate that greater
Well, maybe
truth.
we're at that threshold, and it depends to each person what decision they want to make. I mean, I do think there's concern if the future generations who grew up under face diapers don't know what's real and what's artificial, and that boys are having, they want to test things out, so they have AI girlfriends, and then the threshold of what they're doing, and then the imprints per what Tis is saying. So there's going to be consequences. Like you said, it's too late, and you could argue that we've been in a
No, it's not too late. It's too early. It's where we're heading is potentially good, because where we're heading ultimately is greater truth. Because what you don't see, the silver lining, is that AI has a business incentive to facilitate truth. And if you listen to Elon Musk and you don't like Elon Musk, that's okay. But if you understand what he's saying from a technology standpoint, the business function of AI can only be grounded in truth. As it's grounded in our other systems aren't necessarily like that, because deception and manipulation can be layered on top of the truth. But ultimately, there's a business incentive for an LLM or whatever the future of those LLMs are to be truth seeking, because you're going to have a variety of different models to choose from, including
But we're
completely.
not there, right?
We are there. Of course we're there. Yes, we are there.
But
We are there. We are there. There are open source models where the weights and measures are totally open source, and where you can run them on your own machine, and they're advancing at the same rate that the public ones are. They trail them because they're always going to trail them. But yes, that is part of the technology.
What I'm asking is how ChatGPT does if you don't know how to spot the falsehoods or the mistakes that it makes. So it's how are you defining the truth?
But you got to get smarter. You constantly have to get smarter and stay up with the AI, or there's gonna be a gap there. Whatever someone said earlier, it's the gap is going to widen and widen and widen, and you got to be a prompt engineer, and you got to be an AI engineer, or you're going to be left behind.
Well,
So
Alex,
my job was actually to work in AI and to teach the language model how to improve. And what I noticed was, as I taught the AI, as I taught my team how to improve the AI, the language model auto predictions, it was not rooted in truth. It was rooted in a program, and it can be dialed up or down based on the person who holds the keys to that program. So the people, Epic, 3M, that I was working with that are partnered with Palantir, they were not using that information for good. And my question to you about AI is, or my concern, I guess, about AI is they're using AI gene banks to monitor our DNA and to inform. They literally have a database based on AI analyzing our DNA, our epigenetics, which genes are expressed, and they are continually monitoring that over time in order to develop therapeutics and vaccines. So this is not political. This really has more to do with the tech piece. But their vaccines, the COVID ones, didn't work out very well. They caused turbo cancer and a lot of other things. We're still seeing the collateral damage of that. And they're using this AI to create even more of that.
Well, maybe
Do
they
you
work
see
very
that ever
well.
ending? Do you see AI like coming to a solution on that? Because I only see that going in a very dangerous negative direction.
Well, I think AI is a tool for a lot of people. AI is a tool, and obviously most, I'm speaking to the Western world, in particular, American culture, Western culture as it exists in the U.S. Lazy people will use the easiest tool, but there is a reality, and I think Alex is onto something. If I may, Alex, impose on your insight into AI. Like him or not, Mike Termott, who was running for president and then ultimately as vice president candidate under um, Chase Oliver in 2024, developed this AI system that was meant to promote libertarianism, and called Lisa, or Lisa, Lisa. And when you feed Lisa information in a very generic format, Lisa comes back with very libertarian answers. And it's, if you lean libertarian, paleo libertarian, rights, center right libertarian, or just kind of your run of the mill libertarian person who doesn't know they're a libertarian, uh, they will interact with Lisa in a learning model that's very effective. So I think that AI, the fear of AI for me is concerning, and that people are, and present panel excluded, most people fear AI because they feel like AI is really like, you know, Terminator level technology. And it's because they're not ready to interact with something that thinks. They want something that feeds them answers, but they're not ready to interact with something that is actually thinking, and it's thinking on the information that you as the interface are using to interact with it. And so they just go for, quick, give me a recipe for how to make this particular type of cake. and it comes back with this really great grand recipe. But then when you ask it a complicated question, it snaps back with, well, have you thought about this? Well, if you stop at what that initial answer is, it can be terrifying because it gives this kind of the standard rote answer. But when you push back on it, whether it's, chat GBT or something else, it will start to modify how it responds to you based on how you're asking the questions. And so I tell people, like, look, AI is not going to take over the world if you're smart enough to interact with it. The problem that we have is that most Americans, I'm sorry, we're just conditioned to compliance. And so we're not smart enough to interact with AI.
It's going to get way, way smarter though. So I was talking to some Silicon Valley guy and he was saying what they're working on. Like right now, I guess AI is basically the equivalent of a coder. And what they're working on is AI is going to be the equivalent of an SVP level employee, which is much higher up. And if you read when they talk about how AI is going to earn out its incredibly huge energy burn, they're saying we're going to do it. It's going to do it with efficiency. It's going to take basically choice out of the equation, and it's going to make transportation and all these other decisions based on efficiency. So what Alex was saying is like, well, it depends on what worldview you have. Well, if they give it a worldview of consumerism, fiduciary duty, like I just heard the story about Henry Ford took his profits and gave people raises, and the Dodge brothers sued him saying, you have public shareholders, your requirement is you have a fiduciary duty to give them the profits. And Ford lost in court. So when you teach it to have this fiduciary duty, whatever. So I think from a practical point of view, what people are working on is that kind of stuff. And that shapes the world. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that's what's going to shape the world more than our interfaces. Go ahead.
I think what can I jump in? Because I think what Mike was saying, I really wanted to kind of amplify that on another level. It's like, I really think that our community, the conspiracy first community, should be all over this, because that's what we've said we wanted all along, was truth. And what I think Mike is saying that I'm in alignment with is that AI properly implemented by you, empowered by you. Let's say you had your own AI under your desk and it was super powerful. It can find truth with greater logic integrity than the average person. Because again, as Mike pointed out, most people are stupid. Most people don't think. Most people do not have a handle on logic. So to your point, Monica, can it be this or that? Yeah, like all the stuff we're talking about here. But ultimately, don't you want an intelligence that isn't spiritual, that shows that we are more than a biological robot in a meaningless universe? AI will ultimately show that too. But don't we want an intelligence that, if it's run the right way, can be more logically aligned with the truth?
No,
I do.
No,
you keep on putting this word truth
I think that
out.
would be great, but the goal of the AI is to be able to deceive the people that are Gen Z, Gen Alpha, who have not grown up.
Where are you
yet.
getting that?
So
they're
shaping
by observation,
because I can see it happening already with the rollout
exactly.
of AI. You possess, everyone here possesses the ability to critically analyze the AI. We grew up in a reality before AI was a thing, and we've come to experience AI throughout our lives, and we can then outpace the AI at its current state. But as Monica and you say, it's going to advance. And I agree with you, it's a tool, but a tool in the hands of a child that doesn't know how to use it, like a gun. You wouldn't hand a gun to a child who doesn't know what they're doing. And that's essentially what we're going to be doing with the AI, with this Gen Alpha and Gen Z, who aren't going to have any experience, any life experience to compare the non-AI reality with the AI reality. So unless they're taught how to use the individual open source AI that can find the truth in the right way, then it's essentially handing them a loaded gun without any training.
See what
I see your point but it can be a tool. So it could be used in the wrong hands, or it could be used for good. It can go both ways.
And I appreciate what you're saying, but what I'm running into, to be, and I'm a stranger to all of you except for Monica. So, and Monica's had to deal with me for years now. But the reality for me what I'm running into is, I'm borderline, next to the boomer generation. So I have to be careful with this, lest I alienate friends and family. Uh, the boomer generation is more taken in by AI than a lot of the younger generations are, because they assume a positive about the technology and the tools that they use, where a lot of the younger generations are incredibly skeptical of a lot of the things that come their way, because they've been conditioned to be skeptical because of the blatant acceptance of a lot of things that they've heard from their parents and their uncles and their aunts and their grandparents. And I actually see far more, Gen Z and millennials shying away from the use of AI, where you see a lot more boomers going, "I'm going to use the hell out of this crap," and then they're, coming up with recovering grandma's recipes. I see Monica's trying to say something.
It's important to, I think, distinguish between us interfacing with AI and kids interfacing with that and how that will affect to AI running the world, either by actually being, Skynet or whatever, but more likely making up the entire upper echelon of the bureaucracy, both in the corporate world and in the government world. So when you ask me, don't I want something super smart like that? I don't want this complex a society anyway. I don't think it could exist if it weren't for force, the government, the corpo governmental continuum and the state of nature. And I believe in Hayek's theory of knowledge, which I think like Wiki or Quora, which is the worst thing ever. But this idea that we can, society is self-organizing and we can think as much as we need to. And I don't need help spiritually. I don't need help management wise. Like the Bill of Rights and the Constitution are already a little constricting for me personally. I'd like to go backwards. So this whole thing is being created for the control structure. And I think we're not realizing how sophisticated it's going to be very soon.
I would like to add to that, because it's being a beta test user, it's like, oh, well, you're not allowed to get this because of the social credit system. And then you don't have humans behind discerning, right? You can hate the things that someone has done, but still love them. And that discernment and that humanity, to what Monica's point is, of like, how is it going to be programmed? What's the ulterior motive behind? Is it a humanitarian one, or is it to keep you in line like the hive mind? And
or
then
it could just be efficiency. It could just be capitalism, the techno capitalism. And as a hardcore agorist, I don't like to use capitalism in a bad way, but if you're really, it could just be that it's programmed to be efficient first of all. And what's the goal? The goal is to sell stuff.
Well, can I kind of just throw out some ideas on like what the nature of truth is and how we can kind of come to define it and describe it? Because that can also be kind of different for different people. And I'll throw out the example of, they ran this study where they had people walking over a bridge and, romantic couple situation. And if the bridge was shaking and there was an unsettled feeling in the guttural impulse of one of the participants, then they would often come to associate that gut experience with some sort of effect for the person adjacent to them, as in to say that the external variables that are tweaked and adjusted based on our primal response will then elicit something from us that we point to and say is truth. But it's a temporary conflating of different stimuli response that, if you could look at like Alison McDowell's work, that's impact investment. That's when you're in essence using data algorithms to become an aqueduct for human trajectories from birth, and if not even preceding birth. So truth is that, okay, at what point is love true? Is it the stimulus response through the way in which a particular animal is shaken, or is it something deeper that goes all the way to the spiritual nature of our being?
Can I add on to that? I see AI becoming the nervous system of the technocratic beast system that's being thrust upon us. And when it comes to evaluating the moral side of AI, if it is the nervous system of the technocratic order, then by just general projection, I see it as being bad, if not evil, based upon studying technocracy, past, present, and then looking at the patterns in the future.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here. I mean, I see a distinction between like the large language models and like what they perceive it or are trying to portray as AI, artificial intelligence, right? AI, artificial general intelligence. Eventually, they want to portray that, or they'll represent it, or even claim that it is actual life with sentience, right? With a conscience. I don't believe that that is something that humans can create in a lab. So whatever advanced large language models or whatever, at some point they will present to us something and say this thing has consciousness, and it will pass every single Turing test that we could possibly throw at it, but it'll still be something artificial made in a lab. That's their ultimate goal. Now, I think the danger really comes in, like what a lot of you guys are saying, is that that will then be used to become the ultimate authority, right? With the whole COVID era, we had to trust the authorities, and the authorities were always right. So that's been beaten into us. And so what better authority is there that will ever exist than this AI construct that they create? That they will really try to force every institution, like Monica was saying, they will say, okay, we can have pure equity. We'll get rid of racism and everything if we just make all judges AI, all congressmen and senators AI, if we make presidents AI, if we make everything AI, and that'll be sold to us as the ultimate solution for peace and utopia. And so that's what needs to be resisted at every angle. And we just have to just call them out when they present to us that this is consciousness. We have to say no. And but at the same time, I'm trying to build a business right now. I'm starting a business from scratch. I'm using ChatGPT to make sales roadmaps and click funnels and lead magnets and all this stuff. And it's helpful for me as a tool for doing that sort of stuff. It really is, for practical stuff, for me to gain more independence and freedom in my life. That's the way I look at it. But, I do take this topic very seriously. And I have one more thing I want to add too. The thing that I see as a conversation that we need to have now is that as we move forward into the future, we have this thing called the Second Amendment here in the United States, right? Where it's like, we have the right to have, they say a well-formed militia or whatever, or the ability to have firearms to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government. So my thinking is that as we move forward in the next 20 years or something, pistols and AR-15s, these things will no longer be sufficient to defend against a tyrannical government, because a tyrannical government isn't going to be using soldiers anymore. It's going to be very advanced robots, drones, AI, large language models, nanobots, stuff like that. And so my argument is that we need to have a conversation around, not tonight, but just in general, around we need to have civilian weapon systems to defend against that sort of stuff. Okay. We need to, under the Second Amendment, civilians need to have access to EMP weapons and certain things like that to defend against a tyrannical robot takeover.
You know why we all have handguns, in my opinion?
What's that?
I call them target justifying weaponry versus resistance grade weaponry. You want resistance grade weaponry. And they only want you to have target justifying weaponry. Oh, that guy's got a gun. Let's rocket his house.
Great. And I want to say, I want to have a conversation with all of you because I started a brand new show. I had first episode last week called Bot Stoppers, where we will be having this discussion. We are going to stop the bots, baby. So
I agree with you, Scott, by the way. And I was going to say too, real quick, on my Christmas list, swarm of drones. Yeah. If anyone wants to just donate that, that'd be great.
I agree with you, Scott, about the idea of having personalized EMP protections available to people, because, well, we all know how everybody feels when you try to shoot your neighbor's drone out of the air over your house, with a shotgun, which, by the way, is effective, but it's noisy. So, but I do agree.
Mid-range.
Yeah, right, mid-range for sure. But I think that EMP technology is a wave of the future for personal defense, and I think you're going to start to see it as a reaction to the constant recording that you see all the time everywhere you go. Somebody can walk by your house and record your house. The problem is people will find that also impacts their ability to record people coming onto their property, because the EMPs,
I saw that. I saw somebody use like a wireless jam or some footage of some people breaking into a house, and they had some device that like they held up to the Ring camera, and it like glitched out the
So,
ring camera.
so
Yeah.
I actually, I think you're onto something, and I think you're right. That is kind of the wave of the future, as far as technological tyranny. The the reality is that we're all looking at having to fight against people who are ruling over us, or something ruling over us, and now we're in this really weird position, for the first time, maybe in a way that our ancestors could never fathom. Do I have to try and take down a flesh and blood tyrant, or do I have to try and take down a golem? And I don't mean Gollum from Tolkien, but if you know what a golem is, that's kind of what AI has become for a lot of people. Like, now I have to try and take down this robotic golem, the spirit creation, or I have to take down like this flesh and blood. And which one is more dangerous to us? And if you buy into the reality of the banality of evil, human beings are a little less threatening because of the banality of evil, versus AI, which is, if it's going to be used for an evil cause, is cold and dry and calculating. And that's where I see AI being a problem for most people, because most people just don't have the intellectual capacity to be as calculating as AI becomes when it learns to interact with people. And I think that's something that more of us need to consider, whether we see AI as a tool or as a tool of oppression. We still need to be
I
taking
have to give you an
these thoughts.
example
Yeah.
of the AI that happened to me the other day. I was watching Slow Horses on Apple TV. Well, if you sign up for Apple TV, you have to like basically watch every single solitary episode of anything. Because
You sold out. You sold out,
I'm
Monica.
sorry. I use the plug-in drug. I will do it after hours. I just have to veg. So I'm watching Slow Horses, and there's an actress in it. Her name is Louisa, whatever is the character, and she has some. I only noticed like the fourth episode in, like her fingers are half the length of normal fingers, and her hands are like a little bit messed up. She has some disease. So I was just wondering what disease that was. So I just Googled it, and AI came back, and I said, "What's wrong with Louisa's hands?" And AI said, this actress is known for her expressive hand gestures, whatever. And I just kept clicking, and let AI think some more. Come on, come on, come on. What do you got? Just would never ever say that that woman had a disease. It would not let you like disable her or whatever you call it, like ability shame her or whatever. But if you look, she has something called symbrachydactyly. It's like
That's a great example, Monica.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
I was
great
like,
example. And to
Yeah.
throw around the word truth. What truth are we talking about here? Because if we're a different generation, because I do use the ChatGPT and I'm constantly catching it. And yes, sure, it's going to advance, but then it's going to get to a point where it's telling you this is the ministry of truth, yo.
Yeah, it shamed me for observing something true and real. It shamed me.
What did you do, Monica?
Nothing. I just moved on. I just got some of that True Hemp Science CBD.
I
and,
got into a debate,
chilled
Monica.
out.
Monica, this will shock you because you've got to know me a little bit. I got into a debate with Chat GPT over Terry v. Ohio while I was preparing to do one of my little kind of off the cuff streams tonight on my after I got off work. And it kept wanting to go back to how Terry v. Ohio doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment because the court said it's okay. And that officers can be, they have to have some sort of objective standard. And I'm like, well, Terry v. Ohio doesn't give you objective standards. No, it is objective because the court said it's objective. So I will argue, I will concede the argument that it certainly does play the system. The reality is that every tool that's used against us, we can also, and I say this cautiously, because we all know that whatever tool you let your person use against your philosophical opponents will eventually be used against you. At the same time, if AI can be used against us, we can develop a means or a way to use AI against our opponents if we're diligent. The problem is the vast majority of Americans aren't diligent, present company excluded. And that I understand. I understand the fear, and I don't mean fear in a mocking or derisive way. I understand the fear of that. Um, that, and most of us all grew up on Sarah Connor being a badass, and so I think there is a reality where we do have to be careful with what AI can do. Is it Zoe or Zoe? You had mentioned
Zoe.
Zoe. You had mentioned. I'm used to the Greek spelling, so you'll forgive me if I misplace that. Um, you had mentioned earlier that you were in a film that's been suppressed,
Hmm.
and just for my fan base that is watching, which is very minimal compared to everybody else, but for my fan base, which is watching, what film was that, and is there a place where we can catch that, and where can we find your book?
Right now, the only place to buy the book online is eBay. It's called The COVID Code: My Life in the Thrill Kill Medical Cult. It came out 1 week before the movie Vaxxed 3 Authorized to Kill. So it was a movie that Children's Health Defense had funded. I sat down with Polly Tommy. I did like a half-hour interview. That day I spoke, it was actually at a hospital. And that day I spoke with Dr. Paul Thomas and the attorney who represented Dr. Paul Thomas inside. I did a speech for their Children's Health Defense. So yeah, that came out last September. And I was featured in it quite a bit. I think I'm one of the few, maybe only hospital coder to come out and say what I did. So yeah, that was the movie that I was in.
It's a great book too. Make sure you check the book out.
Yeah, I read it.
Thanks. That's my editor right there.
I sorry, I go into host mode sometimes when I'm on other people's platforms, and I forget that it's not my show. So my apologies.
Oh, it's okay.
Good.
That's fine.
I am and I'm not going to be able to hang out for too long, but I do have to say this because Monica surprised the crap out of me today, and so she knows I never fanboy, but when she told me, hey, they told me you could come on tonight, I was like, what, really? So I fanboy on you guys constantly. I love your guys' content. You guys are
Make sure you
amazing.
plug really fast where people can find you and your work. You mentioned you were going to drop off soon, so go ahead and just mention that real quick so that
you could find it pretty easy under Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, which is a throwback to the reformed foundations of the American Republic as they broke away from the British Empire. But I do go by now MBRR Media because I've got multiple platforms that I do stuff on. But yeah, a lot of my content revolves around government accountability and law enforcement accountability. I was in the law enforcement career field for almost 13 years as a deputy inside of a detention center in the third largest metro area in the state of Minnesota. And in 2020, I started talking about government overreach. I don't know what was going on in 2020 that would make somebody who's liberty minded talk about government overreach, but I was talking about it, and they came after me and took my career away from me. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, now you made an enemy. And here we sit.
Have you talked to Jason Bassler from the Free Thought Project before?
I have not. I know who he is, but I'd love to talk to him sometime.
You should talk to him. I think you guys would have a lot to speak about.
So yeah, that's what I do, and I just was very honored to be invited to come in and share my ramblings tonight. Monica's like, hey, by the way, you want to tune in? And I'm like, that's past my bedtime.
Well, we're glad to have you. Thanks for coming on for this year end. I don't know, kind of wrap up show.
Yeah, and don't worry, the robots don't get tired, so you can sleep.
Well, I'm personally letting my AI that I have created here at my home take over the rest of the show. So
that's fine. That's fine.
That'll work. To get a little bit more conspiratorial and a little bit more spiritual and a little bit crazier, I'm curious on everybody's thoughts. So I just came out with a new song called Digital Disease, and the opening line is humans evolve and create. And it's this idea that when you look at like just about everything humans do, it's always about evolving and creating and evolving and creating. What do you guys think? And it seems like, okay, something is in our DNA. We're either spiritually pushed in that direction, we're designed to do that, the same way that maybe bees don't know what they're doing or ants don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but they just do it. What do you, does anybody want to go down this crazy rabbit hole of like, we're talking about AI, we're talking, which is obviously connected to transhumanism and man and machine meeting. What, like, what do you think is going on? If we zoom out and we look at the big picture, do we think it's like, there's obviously been a lot of conversations about UAPs and UFOs and ETs and all this stuff, and these theories of possibly us from the future coming back, and it kind of makes sense because it's like they don't really care what we do to each other, but when we mess around with like because obviously there's a lot of evil in the world. When we talked about Epstein, we talked about pedophilia, child trafficking, but when it came down to like nuclear disasters, that's when they get involved. So it's like it almost seems like they're protecting the planet, like it's their planet. Anybody want to put on a
If I
tinfoil hat?
if I can before I bounce, I think the reality, I come from a very reformed Calvinistic perspective in my Christian philosophy, which is, what makes me very opposed, because we were talking about Zionism earlier in the opening. But I think what we're seeing is a move towards replacing humanity as much as possible with an artificial intelligence, which is what we see all the time with this transhumanism thing, with people talking about putting in, implants and chips and whatnot into, for interfacing. And what people really want, or not what people, but what the powers that be, if you will, want, is they want people to be replaced with cold logic, what they perceive as logic, as opposed to an empathic approach to, in the old Greek philosophical and even the Hebrew philosophical way, which was where the spirit was the center of the human being, the heart was the brain, and the soul combined together.
I'd like to jump in and go way back before Christianity and the Abrahamic creation of the religions. Okay, let's talk about the Sophia wisdom goddess.
Wisdom,
I'm representing wisdom to see the truth, divine, feminine, divine, masculine. Could this be Atlantis revisited? And just like if I eat meat, am I an evil person? Could we be fodder now that we know what loosh is? And by the way, redacted, you guys did not define loosh. They're now saying that it's basically a loosh bag, like a douche bag, when it's like Robert Monroe. So really, this is also a war on consciousness. And having had a Kundalini, I'm very blessed to have had one, and tap into my own divinity, which is available to all of us by going deep within. And there's a time of remembrance. This might sound woo-woo, but it's way beyond, when you remember Christians being killed by Christians, and go back to the Cathars. It's all, look, even I wrote in my Substack the process of crucifixion, that it was an industry, it was being done way before Christianity. And who was Jesus? Was he, a version of me or Zoe or anyone who speaks up? And was he really with near two thieves? So like, also even looking, if you want to cite your Bible, just know that it was Aramaic, then it was translated to Coptic, then to Greek, then to Latin. English came much later. So I stand for being a scribe, a record keeper. And having spent a year in going in deep dive to the mechanics of the soul, where did this like go back way Plato? And what is the divine spark? And to come across John Lash's work and the Zadokine, which was, like you mentioned, the golems of this artificial. So we're really, kind of defending in a way whether hope, Genesis, whatever, we've already been messed with, we've already been genetically modified. And this is another iteration. Thanks for letting me speak.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there because I think that's a misrepresentation of the playing field as we see it. You know, there's all these different tools out there. So your personal experience, your personal connection with the greater is undeniable, just like mine is. But it's mine is mine inside of embodied in me, and yours is yours embodied in you. And the misstep, as Scott pointed out, is to conflate that with what AI is doing, because AI is either sentient or it's not sentient. And I think it is not sentient. And if you go back, and Ricky and I were having this conversation, go back and read the 1950 paper by Alan Turing, who we all cite as the Turing test. He was saying, not sentient. I believe in ESP. I believe the scientific evidence for ESP is overwhelming. Therefore, there's this aspect of humanness that cannot be captured in the machine. That's true. And that's what we can use AI for. That's why it should be the grounding of truth. And Sophie and all the rest of that stuff, great. You can have your opinion and I can have mine. I like to play chess online. I'm not a very good chess player, but the AI kicks my butt every time. Magnus Carlsen is the greatest chess player maybe of all time. AI kicks its butt every time. In certain domains, in more and more domains, all domains, AI is going to kick your butt. When it comes to logically analyzing, when it comes to analyzing, so this is what I've spent the last year, and my institute is publishing peer-reviewed papers on, is you can get the AI first time to acknowledge that the neurological model of consciousness is one, the dominant model of the existing paradigm, the existing scientific paradigm. AI will also say simultaneously that it has been essentially falsified because it's causation versus correlation. This is science, and AI is on the edge of saying that you are more than a biological robot in a meaningless universe. Science hasn't been able to say that. Science has known that all along. We all know that. We all know we're not biological robots. What does it mean if AI is the smartest guy in the room and can say that about consciousness? That's the kind of truth I want of AI. I want out of AI. I don't want the ultimate truth about God. I'll leave that to myself. But processing logic, like processing a chess game, give it to me. Give me the best I can get. Whether ivermectin is safe and effective, give it to me. Give me the best data, give me the best knowledge, the best truth you can. Whether the jab is safe and effective, I want the best truth, logic-based, scientific-based that I can get. And I have a better chance with that with AI than I do with any of you guys. No disrespect intended, or with any of the leading authorities.
I just want to pop in because I got to head out, actually. Last comment. Every one of us here has been algorithmically censored, shadow banned. Everyone out there who's listening, you've had the AI driving your Spotify playlist, your Twitter feed, your Facebook feed, and that is going to become how the government is run. All those decisions are it's called the algocracy. James Corbett came up with the term for it. He has a documentary called The Algocracy. And I actually interviewed with him on one of the AI programs that is in healthcare because they are playing God with this particular program. What they did with the Lavender program, which was AI, was they took the AI to make a decision whether or not to kill a target or not. The human was supposed to be able to hit the button or not, but it was the AI who made the decision who's going to be put on the kill list and when to execute said list. And then the person had about 10 seconds to either hit the button or not hit the button, which would then kill an entire family, which is playing God and deciding who lives or dies. So whether or not the AI is sentient, they are trying to take out the ability of the human heart to decide who lives or dies and make the AI the one who decides. So just food for thought, that is a reality that we are all careening into. And we just have to be aware of the benefits of AI and how we can use it for our own defense. I believe that's true, but what it's also capable of so that we can protect ourselves against it.
Zoe, plug your Substack before you drop off.
My Substack, which is the best place to find my content right now while I rebuild my website, is zowe.substack.com. I also have a Rumble channel. I'm on Twitter. Rumble's another good place to follow me. Thanks. Happy New Year.
So I guess I'll go next. I'm under the impression that there's a subterranean civilization, be it just normal as people or something else. I don't know, because I've never seen it. How would I guess? And it's significantly more advanced. And you can think of that subterranean as simply the deep underground military base infrastructure. And you can look at the conventional way in which we would look at like the compulsory school system, which then filters into post-secondary, is basically just investment syndicates, because you'll have oligarchs put quarters into the jar that determines the funding for how people conceive of concepts. Then they'll use the pruning process of taking the smarter people out of that and funneling them either into private industry, the military, or things that we don't even necessarily have the verbiage in order to be able to describe. So for the most part, the way in which we go about living our lives is a preconceived notion by something that's much more sophisticated than we are, that drops certain stories into our laps. You can look at the film Back to the Future, and then has large traumatic kind of ripple effects that are accentuating those foreshadowed predictive programming things to eventually culminate in a very predictable behavior for the masses. So we're looking at the design scaffolding kind of like us existing in terrariums, much akin to fish. That's what we got going on right now, and we're supposed to jump the tank, not get better at playing Finding Nemo.
Again, well said.
The other Alex, you want to jump in? You've been quietly listening for a while. You want to?
Yeah, just soaking everything in. I think everybody's kind of hit on the AI conversation that I kind of want to touch upon. The only real concerns I have, just to kind of harken back briefly, is I think as long as we stay away from sentience, that's kind of really my red line. I understand the behavior modifications, but we've already seen kind of the immersion through all of our tech industry and the slow, encroachment on our everyday tools that we use. We've already seen kind of that integration. So I think people are willing to accept it to a certain degree. My real concern is when they start churning out these next round of Gen Alpha doctors who are working on a patient system that is not equipped for the medical system, and they're really not equipped with the proper knowledge that they need to do their job. So I think when you start routinizing AI for those purposes to kind of overcompensate for a maltrained new generation, I think that you're going to start seeing the negative effects of some of those implementations. And you kind of saw a precursor to that, how much of it's verifiably true with the turning down of people's claims for sick care with Brian Thompson with United Healthcare. I think you're going to see more cases like that where people are just going to be fed up with the system and they're just going to turn against it. But I think that's really where it's going to come to rear its ugly head, is in the medical system particularly.
Monica, you had a suggestion on how we could wrap this up?
Yes. I'm happy to lead. I wanted to just make one little response to that anyway, which was on my list. So what I had said was, let's like if you had anything for your 2025 looking back, or your 2026 looking ahead, anything on the list before we wrap, just rattle them off. But I did want to say about that kind of the medical AI nexus. My fear is, like, I have, as my mother would say, like, God is up in his heaven. I don't know why you worry so much about all this stuff. But it's what I do worry about, the way the phone has changed the ability for censorship and surveillance. I worry about mRNA. I worry about like nanotech. I worry about epigenetics, whatever, as somehow making fundamental changes to human nature, which is what I would count on for 10,000 years, 100,000 years. Like, they can do whatever they want to us, but we have souls. Well, what if they find the soul gene and eliminate it? Then we'll all be golems.
Yeah.
We would all be. And I worry a little bit
They
about
kind
that.
of did that, Monica.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if they went that far. I don't see that. I think people are just as vapid as ever. I don't see, they're sicker, they have strokes, they have heart attacks, they have turbo cancer. They're idiots.
Something
Between
else
MAGA
is
and
missing.
TDS, like,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
yeah,
you,
go
but
ahead. Sorry,
something
that's
else.
it.
I'm clairaudient, and something else is missing. I could feel into
Maybe.
things,
Maybe.
and there's like kind of reading scripts, but not really there. And I want to say there's a reason why they created a bioweapon and there were different batches to attack the heart. You can't raise your frequency. And maybe because I accidentally had a Kundalini and I wouldn't know what the fuck I myself am talking about if I hadn't had that experience to expand consciousness to be able to see from a bigger eye point of view. And that the heart, because it's like, I'm just doing my job, but you're a woke social justice CUNT. So you're not
Or
really
or
not
every
really in your
cop that
heart.
works or every cop that works a beat, by the way.
Yeah,
Just not
you're
just
are
those
you
that-
really in your humanity? And I think that's one step towards where they want to go. And to just like, Sophia, what the divine feminine, the love, the heart. I mean, there's a reason why they created this jab to attack the heart in so many ways.
All right, I'm gonna rattle off my things. Is that all right, Ricky?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's
I-
wrap up
Yeah, and I'll
you
just
rattle
sign
off
So
your
we have an
thing,
hour and a
right?
half
and,
of Monica
Sign off.
rattling.
and then tell
hour and a
everybody
half
where they
of
can
Monica.
find
That sounds
you.
great. Thank you.
We'll,
Okay.
we'll just do it that way. Make sure everybody gets the
Yes.
turn. So
And I
Monica,
talk
why don't you
fast.
start? I don't know what you have in mind, so go ahead and tell
Yeah,
us.
so I'll show you. So I wrote when I saw that Ricky said, well, this is going to be 2025 in review and 2026 predictions. So I have lists. That's what I do. So I'm going to rattle off the things on the list that nobody touched on.
Homework.
I know, homework again. 2025 started out for me with my entire neighborhood burning down. So like LA fires was a big thing for 2025. We got the first American Pope, which I think ties in with the fall of Charlie Kirk, the rise of Erica Kirk, and this. I think that the right is going to create schisms, continue to create schisms on the traditional religious stuff. Like I think the Pope is a weapon. I think he's there for a reason to create schism. I think that whole like whatever Christian nationalism is going to be a problem, continuing problem. Ozzy died. Posse Comitatus died. The rise and fall of Doge. There was a mineral deal in Ukraine that was under the radar, but I think is a sign of what is really at stake here. The executive order on AI that was from Trump that is going to creating the bubble. I think the AI bubble will burst, but that doesn't mean, that just means that they way overinvested up front, but it's still going to take hold. Tariffs, interest rates came down. Silver hit an all-time high. And then for next year, I do worry about the AI bubble bursting. I worry about like actually fundamentally changing humanity. I think that the next place to go is going to be Georgia, the country of Georgia, which everybody knows is on the chopping block, but I think that'll progress. The federalization of police, whether it's from the Posse Comitatus thing, the congressional recommendation on the Secret Service being everywhere. The Capitol Police have outposts in different places. I think that's going to keep happening. Taiwan might ignite. We're giving them a bunch of weapons. I think that's going to happen. And there might be a big event that levels up the way COVID leveled up, because I think they think they're still on track for Agenda 2030, and they don't have a lot of time. This is Monica Perez. You can find me on Substack, Monica Perez Show, Apple, iTunes, whatever, all that stuff. And on Twitter, it's really just literally like people are like Telegram, like nobody can read your stuff. On Twitter, nobody can read my stuff. It's really just a personal diary, completely secure. Probably couldn't see it even if you went to my site, but it's anyway at Monica Perez Show.
Thank you, Monica. Let's go to Miriam next. Miriam, what's your prediction for 2026? Are you overall optimistic? And how are you feeling?
I believe there'll be a reckoning for, continued for people to get their house in order as a poster child for the social credit system. I don't know my personal predictions, but I think there'll be more rules, less competence, and that I wonder if they're going to fizzle out this 3i Atlas, and if they're testing to see whether Project Bluebeam is, if the people are ready. I don't really have any. I just welcome people to be in their heart and go deeper within themselves. And you could find me on Truth Lives Here on Rumble, Fridays 3 Eastern, and I'm writing on Substack. I'm working on my second book, which has nothing to do with George Floyd. And if you want to get my book, which could have been called How You Make the Sausage, you can go to mariamhinane.com and get the book, because in the future, this will be a lot of money for someone who's a visionary, who sees how much rare books and truth goes for. Thank you, as always, for still letting me be part of the Union of the Unwanted.
Thanks.
So I'm even more unwanted.
Thanks, Miriam.
You are wanted here.
Thank you. Oh yeah, and
all
buzz
love
on over
you.
to
Love you.
honeycolony.com. Honeycolony.com. It's going to be 15 years in a couple of days. My
Wow.
magazine and marketplace. 15
Yep.
years.
Go over there and support Miriam's work. Tease, what's cooking? How are you doing? What's your prediction for 2026? We should do bingo card next for the first show of next year, Ricky. We can do bingo card. Everybody can come up with their wild prediction. We'll add it to the Union of the Unwanted bingo card, so that when something crazy happens, we can see if we have it, keep track of it, and then we'll wrap it up at the end of the year.
I don't really know if I have any predictions or an accurate.
Well, how you feel?
No, I mean, I'm going to try and, I guess, describe it. I think that chaos is going to be the continued state of things as people run out of one preconceived exoteric notion of belief system into another safe space built upon whoever's willing to give them some sort of social reward feedback for complying. And I don't know what, like, the trial balloon dynamics of slowly conditioning populations to do that are going to be. It's probably going to be a variety of different things, including proxy wars. And that's because they have to hide the severity with which they have been deliberately genociding the entire species in a slow motion genocide against our friends and families. And so that means excuses, distractions, a lot of kayfabe, a lot of tuning into the same mesh networks of mediocrity that have come to define the conversation for everybody, so that there isn't ever actually really any coherent truth movement. So I see the stagnation of the truth movement under the boot of gossip. That's my prediction. As far as myself, what I've been doing this last year is making wonderful documentaries about incredible bald people. One of them happens to be named Charlie. Another one happens to be Ryan Christian. And that also featured, oh yeah, by the way, this show on it, which is Vagabond Union. If you haven't been over to conspiracysynergy.com to watch the last year's worth of mini documentaries that go into some of the amazing people, some of whom present here, some of yet to appear, or let's say, I don't think Passio's ever been on. You don't necessarily want to invite the dude, but I did want him too. Point being, go check out conspiracysynergy.com. They're little mini documentaries to rally around actual truth tellers in a world that discourages us from finding our way there. But that's your ticket, conspiracysynergy.com. Thanks for having me back on, guys. Love you.
Good to see you, Tease. Alex, what do you think? I mean, what's your outlook for 2026? Is it what you make of it? I mean, is there some of this out of your control? Is there a economic tidal wave coming? I mean, are you trying not to worry about things? Like, how you feeling?
Economic tidal wave. I moved a lot of my equity assets into Tesla earlier in the year. Really fortunate to do it. I think it's headed towards 1,000. I think robotaxi is really going to be the first full appreciation that people have of what robots are. So we have full self-driving in your Tesla. I don't own a Tesla. I would never drive an electric car. It seems inconvenient. But it's totally fundamentally going to change how we understand AI and how we understand robotics. And I think that Tesla is positioned better than anyone else to have the kind of full stack of both from the lowest level of the chips to the highest level of not only the processing of the AI with Grok, but also the data. I mean, they have all these, they're going to have millions of cars running around, plus they're going to have millions of robots running around. That's all absorbing in data. So they're going to be the king of data. So that's my stock pick of the year. But of course, I don't care about any of the financial part because I am first and foremost a spiritual being. And I feel like what AI will ultimately reveal is the spiritual nature of humans, because it will reveal what AI is not. And what AI is not is sentient. What AI is not is more than silicone. What AI is not is more than being in this time-space reality. AI is in the time-space continuum, We as spiritual beings, our consciousness is not. So as Monica said before she left, I think her mother or grandmother, whoever it was, is right. God's up there. I think it doesn't look like it, but I think there's a plan that's going to have it all work out okay.
I hope so. Alex, what about you? How you feeling?
Well said by the other Alex. I totally agree. We are spiritual beings. Things will work out as long as we have the Lord and Savior. I tend to have a little more doomsday outlook. At least for like the first 2 quarters of the year, but things may change. Through premonitions, I start to see some more of these. Some of this Deagle report stuff start really ramping up and starting to come back. I know we had talked about it previously in other episodes, but I do see some of that dying off, starting to come back in the foray and in the foreground, and people starting to ask questions again. I do think that Trump's going to lose the House and Senate in November, and I think up until that point, I think that they're going to try to run some more of these gene therapies and maybe like another bird flu or a swine flu, something to scare the shit out of people. I know that Bill Gates currently still has like 10 pending vaccines right now, so for non-existent diseases. So that will be interesting to see what he's going to pull off the shelf. And I think that they're going to continue to keep running false flags, the tiny hats. I think that's going to continue to happen, whether it's in Australia or it's near, a war zone in Gaza, or it's, off the, in the Red Sea, or if it's over here at home domestically. I think that there's going to continue to be shenanigans. It's going to continue to keep separating MAGA from MAGA. And I think it's going to be a season for reveal for sure.
Alex, can you just share, just because this is a really interesting thing that we've been talking about, the 200th and 50th anniversary of the United States, the World Fair, and that type of stuff?
Yeah, so part of my research project right now is I'm doing a deep dive into the Chicago World's Fair, leaning on some really great sources. If anybody has any information too, it would be great. Just throw it in my Google Drive. I'll link up with you guys after the show. But yeah, just kind of comparing and contrasting what Trump has lined up for the America 250. He's going to just go balls to the walls with everything that he has planned. And it's kind of like a precursor for the conditions that were set for the Chicago World's Fair is kind of similar to what we're seeing now with the Age of Reveal, the golden age that he's trying to usher in, the forgetting of previous times that we had, and then basically skyrocketing us into this new technological hellscape that we're about to take on full speed. So I think that the conditions are similar enough where I think there's going to be a lot of corollary between those two time periods, and I'm just really excited to see what will be revealed from revisiting the past.
I'm reminded that Deagle has about 10 days left.
I know. Well, I think it can still be true in the sense that it could still come to fruition, but could be on the wrong timeline.
Hey, listen, man, close enough. I mean,
yeah.
Nobody's gonna hold them to it if they're a little bit off in their predictions. Very scary. Nature Boy.
Yes.
Nature Boy, you're a pretty optimistic dude. You got a good outlook on things. How are you feeling about things moving forward?
On a personal level, I'm not tripping out for some reason. I should be. I think things are going to get worse. I think we're going to see more of these unnatural natural disasters, plus maybe even some real natural disasters that are going to come down, kind of like what Pacific Northwest went through, or the Palisades fires. The list goes on and on. What concerns me is the advent of the CBDCs and the cashless society that could possibly come to fruition in 2026. Mix that in with AI. I think that if that happens, when that happens, it'll create a world that will be a combination of Orwell and Huxley taken to a whole new level. So as far as the world goes, I don't have a good view on it. But I don't put my trust in the world. I mean, I am in the world, but not of the world. And I keep faith up there to the good Lord above that hopefully I'll be able to spend a little bit more time in this cosmic spacesuit that we all walk around in, because I really dig the ride. But if tomorrow nuclear war breaks out and I live in between two decommissioned Air Force bases, I hope that I go out with a bang and do an instant transition. So is that optimistic enough for you there, Mr. Charlie?
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. You're coming to Mexico, right? You're planning to be around in February in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for Anarchapulco, are you not?
You read my mind. I was going to ask Rick if I could do a shameless plug about Anarchapulco for
Yeah, me too. I was
February
thinking
16th to
about
20th. Yeah, I just signed the contract with Kat to manage the side stage.
Awesome. So speaking of that, since you're doing that, I'll plug it. February 15th to the 20th, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. It is moved. It is in Acapulco, but it is now on the road. Speakers include Jeff Berwick, Curtis Stone, Gareth Ike, David Ike, Max Egan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Christian Yordanev, Tim James, Patrick Henningsen, Greg Reese, Steve Falconer, president of Lieberland. He'll be there. Miriam, you coming?
I hope so. I'm vying for the dance position. I definitely my public out. I hope so. Yeah.
We need our hot dancing babes, so you got to work it out, babe.
You're
I gotta
managing.
work it out. I gotta work.
Yeah,
So, Dave, you're managing the side stage. You said.
Yeah, the second stage.
Second stage.
We're still trying to figure out a proper name for it, because no one wants to be stuck on the side stage. They want to be.
Yeah. That sounds like a sideshow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's already enough of a sideshow.
Jason.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be the.
Jason.
No, it goes on this brain. It's a permanent sideshow, guys.
You run the second stage. I'll be on the main stage for Monday through Friday as the MC again. So I'll be. I don't know that I don't know how much I'll see you. Maybe I'll sneak off.
I'm only be working 3 days, and then the rest of the time probably helping out Kat and Miranda.
Oh, good. I'm gonna need a vacation after my Mexico vacation.
I just need about 6 weeks just to decompress all the things I experienced through that. So mental vacation.
I'm running and gunning the entire time, as Sam would say.
Put a good word in for me for the. I don't know if DJ Carrillo going to be there. I'm gonna have to reach out to him.
Don't know.
How about presents?
There's a bunch of people that I see on the calendar, but they're not on the website. So as far as I'm concerned, I can't talk about them. And some of them are big names. So we'll see how that comes. I don't know if they're holding them back. I don't know if there's what the arrangement is. So I just have to say I go to anarchapulco.com, check it out. And you've got the ability to promo code. You can use mine, Macro. Miriam's got one. Nature Boy's got one. So, or Miriam maybe had one before. I don't know. Talk to Jeff. But I hope people check it out live stream too. If you're not able to get to Mexico, I understand. But listen, Mexico in February, Puerto Vallarta in February. Are you kidding me? Rules. So you're going to be there. It'll be great all week. You'll meet a ton of people. Come on, make a spring break out of it, or however you can do it. So just figure it out. But it's first time in Puerto Vallarta, and I think it makes it easier for people from accessibility and way cheaper in terms of flights and things like that. So if you've ever wanted to go, now's the time to do it. Ricky, what are you up to? Let's wrap up with you, and then I'll plug everyone afterward who already dropped off.
Yeah, well, I have a amazing conversation with Alex coming out about AI, this specific topic. We talked for a while. We went pretty deep into our own personal views and possible outcomes of all this and much more. So I'm looking forward to releasing that within the next day or two. So definitely keep a lookout for that. I've been using AI to help me quicken my speed with writing music, and then having instead of paying a band to perform it, I have artificial intelligence performing it for me, and they're way better than the people I would have paid, and way cheaper. And so it's hard not to do it. It's fun. So the Theory 6 music stuff, a lot of it has been experimenting with some AI stuff and just tools and software and whatnot to speed up the process, which leads into my prediction. I think by the end of 2026, I think AI is going to have a much bigger role in our lives than 2025. I think there's a lot of people even today, that haven't even used it, don't even know its capabilities, and I think that's going to change drastically in 2026. I think as it grows, as more people realize how easy it is, how many things that take up so much time of your life, so much of your own personal time that you can cut down to minimal time using it. I just think more and more people are going to start using it, and I know there's a resistance. I'm one that feels a little divided in my use of it, and also my understanding of, like, the only thing that is limited that we know for certain is our flesh and body, and on this planet. And if I can accumulate a little bit more free time by using it, then I feel like that's priceless. And I feel like a lot of tasks that take up a lot of time can be, you can use these tools to kind of do that stuff quicker, more efficiently, and give yourself more time to do the things you actually want to do. So I think in that regards, it is beneficial, but I also feel like I'm contributing to our demise. And I don't know if the robots have already tricked me into believing that this is justified, everything that I'm doing. Maybe I've already been tricked, but I do think that's like my big prediction. Just in 2025, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, just how much faster, better. I mean, we all talked about how not too long ago AI videos, they couldn't even do hands, and now they're not just doing hands, they're doing, everything, and at a, it's improving and progressing at a drastic rate. So I'm kind of hopeful in a way, and also scared, because I don't know what the world's going to look at like by the end of 2026. I also think the conversation of universal basic income and these type of things, which a lot of people have scratched the surface on in 2025, I think is going to have to be a very serious conversation in 2026 due to all this. And I think it's going to be something that's not just discussed, but it's going to be stuff that's going to start getting implemented, which also leads to other scary conversations about, well, who's going to control that, and what does that mean in regards to our freedoms and rights and whatnot. So yeah, I think that it's I'm divided. I'm kind of feel like a spectator watching a movie, and I don't know how it's going to end. And a little bit of that is scary, a little bit of that is excitement, but all of it's going to be a little bit crazy. And then I also think disclosure. I think that's going to be a very big topic in 2026. And I'm kind of curious on how this is all going to intertwine. And, I think these topics have some type of weird connection that we haven't quite figured out yet, but they are connected. So yeah, sorry for the long rant.
Ricky, do you use your lovely voice in your AM music, or is there an AI Ricky singing?
Yeah, actually, so you can use your voice, right? And then it can generate a version of, so I mean, it really isn't that much different than what auto tune used to do, right? You used to sing, and if it wasn't perfect, I used to correct it. It could do that. But the AI voice is actually better than my voice. So I just like, why use my voice when
No, you're wrong on that. Your voice is better than the AI voice. You're wrong, Ricky. Okay, sure.
you're right, I have been taken over. They got me.
Well, you sent it to me. I liked it. I mean, I'm not a musician. I don't know. Maybe someone will say, "Oh, it kills the." I don't know. But
Well, it's
sounded good to
not,
me, man.
even the breathing of the vocals, right? And again, like, this is where I'm divided, because it is one of those things where honestly don't have the free time necessary to release music on my own right now. It's so time consuming in regards to writing everything. And then, I would have to record everything to hear what it sounds like. Does it sound like what is, the way it sounds in my head when I put it out and try to make it, bring it to life? It's so where now I could almost I could start with a guitar riff and just play it on my guitar. And I'm like, hey, I want these type of drums with this guitar riff. And it just puts together a band, based around my idea. So to me, it's like, it is weird because in a way, I'm like, I do feel like it's still personal because it's like all it's doing, it's helping. It's like I said, it really is kind of the best metaphor, that I use is like, I feel like I'm paying a professional band to play the music that I'm creating. And so I'm still creating it, only instead of me doing the actual playing, I'm paying somebody else to do it. Now, of course, Alex and I got deep into the whole like AI podcast, AI, there's people who are really using this to just for revenue and you could kind of tell it's fake now, but like, are we going to get to a point where, what is it called? The dead internet theory, right? Where like eventually just about everything online is like the majority of things online is fake
Freaking
and
gay.
fake and gay. Yes. Everything online is fake and gay. And then, I don't know. I mean, it's just, but the fake and gays still need us because we're the only ones who can reproduce. So,
Fake, by the way, is FA.IK. I've adapted it.
you should buy, well, buy that URL and
Alex, I'm curious to see what you think of Rocco's basilisk theory too.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The Rocco's basilisk. It's a little homework for you just to check it out online if you haven't heard of it. The theory.
How do you spell it?
I think it's ROCO's basilisk.
Basilisk, BASKLESS.
BASILISK. So it's Rocco, ROKO. My apologies.
And the second word is BA.
SILISK. So yeah, it's kind of like an ancient Druidic thing.
Oh, Druidic thing. Yeah, love it. I'd be very interested in seeing
Yeah,
it.
check out the theory and let me know what you think.
I'll shoot you a note. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll ask AI.
Ah.
Midnight Mike couldn't be here tonight. He is heading out to Portugal at some point here pretty soon. He's on
He's in Portugal. Yeah, he texted me, asked me to like drink wine and dance, and just Portuguese people are the nicest people on the planet, unless you go to a soccer game, and then you're going to see the viciousness come out.
Worst of humanity.
Oh yeah, we take our soccer very seriously. It's like it's almost crazy that people can have like just about everybody who goes to Portugal has the same response. That they're so polite, and they are like Portuguese people are like they're that's also why they trust the government so much. They're very like they don't have really strong opinions on like politics or anything like that. But when you go to a soccer game, it's like, are these the same people? Like the cops are there. You can't, the away fans, home fans can't go in together. You can't let them drink. I mean, it's insane. But it just shows that like, there's many shades of the same people. There's certain things that can hit a nerve or can bring out something in people, and maybe it's all in us. Maybe
is Mike gonna see it? Is it soccer season there right now?
Experience a religious experience. Going to a soccer game in Europe is a religious
I'd love to
experience. Like the chanting. I mean, you're talking about 90 minutes of chanting together, and it's like going to a concert. Anytime you go to it's somewhere where we were talking about AI and whatnot and what's human and what's not human, but like there's energy. There's something that you're all a part of and feeling and experiencing together. And it just, yeah, I mean, I've been to concerts that I'm like this, I feel like I'm having a religious experience right now, some type of spiritual experience, and we're all doing it together. And it just, you can't really explain it. You can't really, but a soccer game, I also think that's where the passion for, soccer comes from. It's like having that experience. You fall in love with the sport, you fall in love with your team, you fall in love with your community of fans and the whole culture behind it, the singing, the chanting together. I think that kind of is a big part of what people love and why they become so, fanatic about their clubs.
Well, I hope Mike gets a chance to see that. He's unable to be here tonight. Same with Sam. Go to samtripoli.com. See him out on the road. He might be coming to your town. I'm not sure. Also, for those who want to check out Scott Armstrong, Rebunked. Also, what's his new bot show? Botted? something like that. He's got a new show about bots. Anyway, so
Fuck the
check
bots.
out-
or something.
check
Stop
out
the
Rick-
bots.
Stop the bot.
Stop the bots.
Fuck the bots. I'd watch that.
Shout out to Doom Scrolling too. They've been killing it.
Yep, doom scrolling. Mike and Sam have a great side band going on, which is fantastic. Don Jeffries, I Protest. Go to his Substack. It's on fire. He is fantastic. He's super shadow banned everywhere, and especially on Amazon. Like, they just take his books down. They fuck with him so hard. It's crazy. Also, Graham Dunlop from Grimerica. You can go to adultbrain.ca and get the audiobooks that those guys are doing. You can get my Octopus of Global Control and Hypocrisy audiobooks are narrated by each of those guys, Graham and Darren. So check that out. As for me, what are we doing here? I'll wrap up by saying that I will be optimistic for next year, because why not? Your deadbeat son who lives in the basement and doesn't have a job. If you can teach that kid how to ask Chat GPT questions the right way and drill down and do that really, really, really well, there's a business opportunity there for people who know how to do that shit, because that's a skill that I think people maybe don't have. But for those who can do that really well, I think there's an opportunity there. I think for people who want to try something a little entrepreneurial, what about anti-surveillance stuff? Products, clothing. There's a whole bunch of flock cameras and artificial intelligence cameras and possible surveillance, social credit systems feeding into all this. Like, if you want to salt your information digitally when you're online, well, maybe when you're out walking around, you don't want to make yourself so vulnerable as well. So I think there's going to be some opportunities for people with educational programs about how to make themselves less noticeable by the surveillance state. I think these anarcho-capitalist type of people that I meet at places like Anarchapulco, they think about this. They think about, how do we defeat the state? They've got a new weapon. Let's find a way to defeat it, right? They've got facial recognition. Well, let's find out a way to defeat that. They've got, something going on. So there's opportunities. It's what you
Hopefully
make of
that
it.
doesn't get you into the gulag. I'm teasing.
Yeah. Well, we're all on the list anyway, Miriam. Shit.
Yeah, I'm surprised I could still
A
fly
little too
without.
close.
I'm just hoping that my roommate doesn't snore. You don't snore, do you, Nature Boy? Shit. When we're in
No,
FEMA
man.
region, I'm in Denver. I forget which FEMA region. I'm at 4, I think. I don't know. Whatever.
He doesn't just snore. It's like
I do snore.
I'm not going to make it to the
Sorry.
camps. I'm in the train that gets dunked in the river first before they get there. So, Ricky, anything before we wrap up? I appreciate everybody coming for this one. I know our holiday time is limited, so I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope everybody
Yep.
has a great time with their friends and family. I know sometimes we get so deep down these rabbit holes. We keep fighting for our rights and freedoms. We kind of forget to kind of exercise our freedoms and enjoy the little things. So please do that throughout the holidays. Hopefully I see everybody alive and well in 2026, and we'll be able to chat again.
Merry New PSYOP, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
New
holidays.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. See you next year.
Bye. Thanks. It's great
Bye.
being back on.
Thank you.
We're off.